The Gospel according to John, Part 3. After this, there was a feast of Jews, and Jesus went to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem a pool, in Hebrew called Bethsaida, which has 5 porticos. In this lay a multitude of invalids, blind, lame, paralyzed. One man there had been ill for 38 years, and when Jesus saw him and knew he had been there for a long time, he said, "Do you want to be healed?" "Sir," he answered, "I have no man to put me into the pool when the water is troubled. And while I am going, another steps down before me." "Rise," said Jesus, "take up your pallet and walk." At once the man was healed, and he took up his pallet and walked. Now that day was the Sabbath, so the Jews said to the man, "It is the Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your pallet." But he answered, "The man who healed me told to do so." They asked, "Who is the man?" Now he did not know who it was, for Jesus had withdrawn. Afterwards Jesus found him in the temple and said, "See, you are well. Sin no more, that nothing worse befall you." The man went and told the Jews that it was Jesus, and this was why the Jews persecuted him, because he did this on the Sabbath. But Jesus answered them, "My Father is working still, and I am working." Then the Jews sought all the more to kill him, because he not only broke the Sabbath, but also called God his own Father, making himself equal with God. Jesus said to the Jews, "The Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever he does, the Son does likewise. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all that he is doing, and greater works than these will he show, that you may marvel. As the Father raises the dead, so also the Son gives life to whom he will. The Father judges no one, but he has given all judgment to the Son, that all may have honor the Son, even as they honor the Father. He who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. He who hears my word and believes him who sent me has eternal life. He does not come into judgment, but he passed from death to life. Truly, truly, I say to you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead will hear the voice of the Son of God, and those who hear him will live. Do you marvel at this? For the hour is coming when all who are in the tombs will hear his voice and come forth, those who have done good to the resurrection of life, and those who have done evil to the resurrection of judgment. I can do nothing on my own authority. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will, but the will of him who sent me. If I bear witness to myself, my testimony is not true. There is another who bears witness to me, and I know that the testimony which he bears to me is true. You sent to John, and he has borne witness to the truth. Not that the testimony which he received is from man, but I say this is that you may be saved. He was a shining lamp, and you were willing to rejoice in his light. But my testimony is greater than that of John, for the works which the Father has granted me to accomplish, this very work I am doing, bear witness that the Father has sent me, and the Father has himself borne witness to me. His voice you have never heard, his form you have never seen, and you do not have this word abiding in you, for you do not believe him whom he has sent. You search the scriptures because you think that in them you have eternal life, and it is they that bear witness to me, yet you refuse to come to me. I do not receive glory from men. But I know that you have not the love of God within you. I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe who receive glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? Do not think that I shall accuse you to the Father. It is Moses who accuses you, on whom you set your hope. If you believed Moses, you would believe me, for he wrote of me. But if you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words? After this, Jesus went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, and multitude followed him. He went up on the mountain with his disciples and saw the multitude. How are you to buy bread? He said to Philip, that these people may eat. This he said to test him, for he himself knew what he would do. 200 denarii, said Philip, would not buy enough bread for each of them to get a little. Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said, there is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they among so many? Make the people sit down, Jesus said. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in number about 5,000. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. When they had eaten their fill, he told his disciples, gather up the fragments left over, that nothing may be lost. And they filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 loaves. When the people saw this, they said, this is indeed the prophet who is come into the world. Perceiving that they were about to take him by force to make him king, Jesus withdrew to the mountain by himself. When evening came, his disciples got into a boat and started across to Capernaum. It was now dark, and the sea rose because strong wind was blowing. When they had rowed 3 or 4 miles, they saw Jesus walking on the sea and drawing near to the boat. They were frightened, but he said, it is I, do not be afraid. Then they were glad to take him into the boat, and immediately the boat was at the land to which they were going. The next day, the people on the other side of the sea saw that there had been only one boat there, and that Jesus had not entered it, but that his disciples had gone away alone. However, other boats came near the place, so the people got into the boats and went to Capernaum, seeking Jesus. When they found him on the other side, they said, Rabbi, when did you come here? Truly, truly, Jesus answered, you seek me not because you saw signs, but because you ate your fill of the loaves. Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give to you. For on him has God the Father set his seal. What must we do? They said, to be doing the works of God. This is the work of God, Jesus answered, that you believe in him whom he has sent. What sign do you do? They said, that we may see and believe you. What work do you perform? Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness. As it is written, he gave them bread from heaven to eat. It is not Moses who gave you the bread from the heaven. Jesus said, my Father gives you the true bread from heaven, for the bread of God is that which comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. Lord, they said, give us this bread always. I am the bread of life, said Jesus. He who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. But I said that you have seen me and yet do not believe. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and him who comes to me I will not cast out. For I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but to the will of him who sent me, that I should lose nothing he has given. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should have eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. The Jews then murmured at him because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. They asked, is not this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How does he now say, I have come down from heaven? Do not murmur among yourselves, Jesus answered. No one can come to me unless the Father draws him. It is written in the prophets, and they shall be taught by God. Even one who has learned from the Father comes to me. Not that anyone who seen the Father except him who is from God. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. I am the bread of life which comes down from the heaven, that a man may eat of it and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats this bread, he will live forever. And the bread which I shall give for the life of the world is my flesh. The Jews disputed among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? Truly, Jesus said, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is food indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood abides in me, and I in him. As the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so he who eats me will live because of me. Many of his disciples, when they heard this, said, this is hard saying, who can listen to it? But Jesus, knowing that his disciples murmured, said, do you take offense at this? Then what if you were to see the Son of Man ascending where he was before? It is the Spirit that gives life. The flesh is of no avail. The words that I have spoken to you are spirit and life. But there are some of you that do not believe. For Jesus knew from the first who those were that did not believe, and who it was that would betray him. This is why I told you, he said, that no one can come to me unless it is granted him by the Father. After this, many of his disciples drew back and no longer went about with him. Do you also wish to go away? Jesus said to the 12. Lord, Simon Peter answered, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life, and we have believed, and have come to know that you are the Holy One of God. Did I not choose you, the 12? Jesus answered, and one of you is a devil. He spoke of Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, for he, one of the 12, was to betray him.